I wonder if on the training ground, are they practicing on the coin toss? How are they doing this?
Floor, Mr. SB, is yours.
Yeah, let's talk about Brentford 5, Wolves 3. An incredible game at the weekend, but I do need to highlight some concerns because it did take an incredible 75 seconds for Brentford to score this time. Honestly, it's unbelievable. This is 4 games running now. Yes, this will go down as a goal in the second minute because if it comes after 60 seconds, they obviously round it up to the next minute. It's incredible. It really does show how much they're working hard at the start of these games. I mean, I wonder if on the training ground, are they practicing on the coin toss? How are they doing this? No, I think it shows great work rate, forward thinking, creativity and drive. And you'd think to yourself, if you're Wolves or West Ham who'd played them the week before, we know what to expect. So let's stop this. But they can't seem to stop them. And it was Nathan Collins who scored after 1 minute. And we'll take this opportunity, of course, to talk about Brentford in general this season, who are having another good season. They're in mid-table. And let's not forget, there was some varied expectations coming into this season for Brentford. And I will put my hands up and say I did have some concerns. When I looked at the teams that were coming up, I thought there's better quality coming up this season than last season. I think there's a chance that maybe an Ipswich, a Leicester or a Southampton survive. Possibly 2. We'll see. We'll come on to the relegation battle later. And who could fall in? Would it be a Forest? Would it be a Brentford? Would it be a Wolves? I was concerned for Brentford. And, they lost Ivan Toney. They've lost Visa at the moment through an injury. But to still score 5 goals, they've actually scored in a goal in every of the last 7 games. So the goal scoring is not an issue for them. And it really does show how well run Brentford are. I mean, we've spoken about the model at Brentford. It's an incredible journey and probably something that any championship club would love to emulate, how Thomas Frank has brought them up and they've more than stayed up. And when they sell players, they replace them well. Mbeumo, he's obviously scoring. Collins, you got Norgard, Pinnock, Carvalho. There is so much quality there and so many reasons to be optimistic. And you wonder to yourself, will they get another early goal in their first game back after the international break, Ben? I've been so impressed.
Yeah, so I've got a couple of things to come back to you with. I wonder, I always remember, maybe it was Roy Keane, one of the Man United players in the 90s that would say, with certain teams, you could tell in the tunnel, they were in their head. And you do wonder, I mean, these are footballers with elite mentalities, but it's got to have been flagged up that they've scored. By the way, can anyone let me know in the comments, have they kicked off all of these games? Because sometimes you get weird early goals where the team doesn't even kick off and they manage to score straight away, don't they? So, I wonder if there's going to be a mental thing, not for Brentford, but for the opposition team, where they're going to be kick it down the ground. Let's just stop this. We don't want to be the team conceding another first-minute goal. And I totally agree with the concerns. It really looked like the end of a cycle for Brentford, didn't it? And Toney was obviously such a, I think you can say, iconic player in their rise. And I think he arrived when they moved to the new stadium, and he felt like the one that was the last piece of the jigsaw. I know there's always a last piece of the jigsaw, and it's never like that. It's always little incremental things. But it felt like a big end of an era for such a, I don't know if you can argue if he's someone will tell us in the chat, a Brentford fan, if he's their greatest ever kind of figure, or I know maybe they'll argue other players have been greater, but certainly as a figure in the club's rise. And I thought, there's a chance they could be down there, but what they're doing, Matt, is they're doing what teams that finish in the middle of the table are doing. If they're in a game against the team down the bottom, Matt, they win it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good point you brought up earlier, because I was thinking to myself, well, surely the first thing you do if you're playing Brentford, knowing that they keep scoring in the first minute, is you just make sure they don't score in the first minute. But it maybe is easier said than done. Maybe Brentford are playing mind games with these teams and causing sort of psychological problems for them, because Wolves maybe then think, right, we need to really sort of drop back at the start of a game. I don't know if they're forcing teams into making mistakes or into getting into some positions. This is not going to carry on forever, but it'd be incredible if they get another early goal in the next game. And touching on what you said about the Brentford model, they've lost so many great players before. Watkins, I think it was Ben Rama they had as well.
Laundry list of them, isn't there? Of set sales, and always got great money for them as well, didn't they?
Yeah, and Tony was such a big figure, like you say, in bringing them up, and in that first season staying up as well. And like I say, losing Visa to injury at the moment. But one thing that's been a constant at Brentford is Thomas Frank and the people that are high up at Brentford, and they just run it so well. Like I say, it's the perfect model. It's like a perfect act of how to recycle, because let's be honest, you get to a point maybe mid-table in the Premier League where you might hit a bit of a ceiling, which might be that for Brentford. But it comes a time where you might have to sell these players on. But if your recruitment and your scouting is as good as theirs is, you're never really going to fall away. And I suppose last season you could say it was a season of regression, but they look like they're right back on track this season. So, fair play to them. I mean, they're 11th at the moment. They picked up 10 points, 13 goals scored already. So I don't see any problems for Brentford. We'll speak once again about the Premier League relegation battle later, including the likes of Wolves. And these teams are scrapping to pull anyone from mid-table in to join them. Like, come on, we need to beat these and suck them into the battle. But Brentford are just sort of keeping them at arm's length distance and, doing very, very well. And maybe they can start looking up the table rather than having to look over their shoulders. So very impressive, and long may the early goals continue.
I always say, Matt, when it's happening 4 games in a row, it's not luck, is it? It might be happenstance and circumstance, but it's not luck for sure. I'll just round this out just on Thomas Frank, and he was there before he was the manager as well. So it's almost like the succession planning for the succession plan. He's literally already in the building before he's brought in. And last thing I'll say, Thiago Rodriguez, I think I got the right name there, the Brazilian striker who they'd bought in, who's been injured. I think they'll have access to him around Christmas time. So, Matt, if you're a Brentford fan, you're probably like, oh, well, okay, there's another little Christmas present coming in there. Guys, we're going to clip that one out for Matt's channel. So please do get your views in and do head across, obviously, to the Benjamin Bloom football channel for the full Premier League check-in podcast.